Welcome to day 3 of the Toughees #Youthfluencer webinar. My name is Swastika Jagannath and I head up marketing at Barter. Toughees is our biggest brand, and that is the brand that has brought this webinar to you. We hope that you've been gaining a lot of insights over the last 2 or 3 days. Today's agenda is very much a similar pattern as to what has been happening over the last 2 days. But we also have a surprise guest who's going to join us today. So that's a bit of a change to the agenda. But let's get started. Just a special introduction. Like I said, we have a surprise guest. We all know that not all heroes wear capes, right? And we stumbled upon a hero, a lady by the name of Virginia Rasetelo. And she has been watching this webinar, and she also brought to our attention the amazing work that she's been doing in her community. So we want to welcome Virginia onto this webinar and have a quick Q&A with her so that you can all meet Virginia and understand why we called her the superhero and wanted to shine the spotlight on her today. Hello, Virginia.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Nathan.
Virginia, you are the founder of the Enlightened Women's Foundation. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Virginia Ngobeni. I'm married to Mr. Rasetelo. I stay in Limpopo. We are in Limpopo at a village called Robeni. So I'm a motivational speaker, and I'm a mentor, a life coach, an advisor, business advisor. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying this will even expand more of my business ideas when I'm restructuring businesses and rebranding. So that's why I joined the workshop. It was so insightful that yesterday when Suhana was talking, I was like, damn it. What was I doing? Like, here's the whole information that I need. When Prev said we waste money with advertising on Facebook for promotion, for ads, and I was like, and I've been doing that. At first, I've been doing that in 2019 when I was trying to promote my page, when I was trying to promote myself as a motivational speaker, because in the era that we live in, social media. So everyone is looking for you at this media. If they don't find you a motivational speaker, they don't find you, you're not a hero. So there are a lot of things that I do behind the scenes, like mentoring these young ones. So when I resigned as an assistant investigator at a big organization, I decided to come back home to join my husband. I said, no, let me use my own calling because this is not just my pet. So I used that and I said, let me just elevate my community around, because it won't help me to stay in a house, in a big house, and I'm looking at somebody who's not doing very well out there. So these young ones, some of them, they spotted me and say, can you help me with 1, 3? I was like, okay, you have issues of life. They said, yes. You call yourself Enlightened Woman, so please help me. So I think that Enlightened Woman, it caught them, it caught their attention. So some of them, they began to tell each other, who is this? Join this person. She will motivate you. She will encourage you. She will boost your confidence. So that's why I began to adopt a few homes as well, and I began to adopt the schools as well.
Thank you for that. So can you tell me a little bit about the kids in the community that you work with? Where about are these different schools? And what are some of the initiatives that the kids participate in?
It's about 4 schools. So it's 4 villages, 4 schools. So what happened is the other initiative that I joined them was the workshop of Code Like a Girl. The Vodacom Code Like a Girl. So I joined for the girls. So what we did was they even won, they were on top 4 because they wanted top 3. So they said because of their idea was the best. and they only wanted 3. So they put in as the 4th one. So they promised to do them to build a website for the school, because at public schools they don't have school websites. So they will be getting a school website for their school running from next year. So the Vodacom promised to do that with them. So that I was happy that I managed to encourage them to join, because they were like, what is code like a girl? So they did not even understand what is coding. So I had to like first introduce them to this, deeply induct them so that they can be able to fit in as well, so they don't feel left out because they're from the village. So because many of these of our communities, they think that they cannot merge with the urban, or they cannot merge with the townships. When you're from the village, some of them, they look down on themselves. They don't think they can do better. Some of them, they're even more talented than the ones that are staying in the urban. And imagine you come from 1 room or two bedrooms. You look at yourself that no, you cannot go far. So I was removing that mentality that you can do it. I always tell them that I don't inspire losers. I go with the winners. Even yesterday when you called me, Roxanne called me, I told you guys that we go with the winners. So yes, there are many other programs that I normally join them for, because even this one, when I said no chance for them to come and learn about business, it's a good chance for them to come and learn about the social media, because some of them, they are on social media, some of them they are not, because of some they don't have smartphones. So it's the skill that is very much rare. So I'm trying to do my best. It's big, but I'm trying to do my best. So there are a lot. So the Open Sky Movies is supporting us with a lot of things. They're supporting the sanitary sanitary pads for the girls and the roll-ons for the boys. So sometimes I'm looking at the comments and for now because I think that is it. So with that as well, I told them they should go. I went to their schools and I asked them to leave, to tell the matriculants to leave their school shoes behind, so that we can help others who are still coming to high school, to primary school, to higher schools. So I'm trying to do that. So it's a tough decision sometimes, because I have to spend the whole day now going from one school to another. Or even when they call you a hero, sometimes people, they think it's just a trophy or something. It comes with a lot of work. It comes with patience. It comes with confidence. It comes with, I think, favor. And all this, I just thank God that there is much grace for me to do more. So with this as well as platform, again, I'll do more. And I'm still saying that if any other person who is schooling around Robeni or in Zanini, we need those, can contact me on 081 774 8512. And my pages are Enlightened. There's Enlightened one on Facebook, and Enlightened Instagram. So what those pages I'll be able to do, and information will be shared there. There is a lot of things that I would love to share with you guys, but I know I have minimum time. So maybe some of the things we'll find a way someday to speak more of them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Virginia. You can all get Virginia's contact details. She's running an amazing campaign at the moment. She's also collecting school shoes. Guys, Toughees as a brand as well is very much aligned to helping communities, helping empower and uplift those that are less fortunate than ourselves. And that is why we took this opportunity to chat to Virginia. So if you live in the areas that Virginia has mentioned and you do have school shoes, it doesn't have to be Toughees. It can be any other brand, guys, as long as it's school shoes and you can help a child that's less fortunate than you, please try and gather those shoes and pass them down to Virginia so that she can distribute them. We will also be supporting Virginia from Toughees side as well into the new year. We see that you've also entered the Instagram competition yesterday, so thank you for tagging us. We will definitely make sure that
Yes.
Toughees supports your initiative. Virginia, can we ask you to quickly turn your camera around and show our audience what you've been up to? Because you've set up an outdoor projector, am I correct? So that you could get some of the kids to watch us.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Let me just turn around the cameras.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, there we go. We can finally see you. Hello, everybody. We're so glad that you're joining us. Thank you, Virginia. Thank you for setting this up. We're so glad to hear that the brand has made an impact on your organization's lives and the kids that you've welcomed into this webinar. Thank you for going the extra mile to get them to join.
Okay, let me show you how we project.
Oh, wow. You've got a huge screen.
Yes.
So guys, for those of you that might be confused, Virginia has set up a projector where she's mentoring a few young ladies and gentlemen how to become youthfluencers. And she's gone and organized this projector and welcomed these kids into her home. Virginia, these kids have traveled and they're living with friends and family around the area just to make sure that they were here for this webinar, right?
Yes, yes. There's 3 villages. They're from 3 villages.
Lovely, lovely stuff. Well, we're going to share your links, and the South African community is definitely going to learn about Virginia and her organization. Thank you so much for joining us, and let's get started with day 3.
Oh, thank you very much.
So let's welcome Prev Reddy. Let's have a quick look at his TikTok.
I just took out all the clothes on the line. Please compress.
Mom, I'll come just now and do that. I can't pause this game now. I'll come just now.
How long must I wait? Compress it now for me, quickly.
Just now. I'll come just now and do it. Please, I promise. Let me just finish this. And
You know what? I'll show you.
what you gonna show me? No, I'm gonna come now. Let me
No,
just
don't
give me
come.
5 minutes and I'll come.
I'll show you. No, it's fine. I'll show you.
What you gonna show me? What you gonna show?
Oh, why did they make me tea, please? 2 sugars.
I can't. I have to go back to the game.
But you're right there.
I know, but they're waiting for me. I can't.
Leave it. No, leave it. I'll show you.
What are you gonna show me?
No, I'll show you. You'll need something from me this weekend. Leave it. Go back to your room. It's fine.
I'm not gonna need anything. What are you gonna show
When
me?
you see, you'll know. Go next door and ask Auntie to send some chili powder, please. I forgot. I didn't buy
Just
it.
go ask her. Why don't you buy it in the first place?
Just go quickly.
Just go ask her. It's your friend.
No, leave it. I'll show you.
What are you going to show me?
I'll show you.
Fine, I'll go.
Let's welcome Prev.
Hi everybody. Yeah, I think everyone who's here has been here for all 3 days. Just looking at the names on the chat box, and I'm so excited to be here again for our 3rd day. I think we've learned so much over the past 2 days, and it's been so insightful, so informative, so awesome to meet so many new people on social media. I'm seeing all your tags and your DMs and your comments, and I'm trying to reshare as many as I can. But thank you, and let's learn how to turn all of this into a business today with the Master Pedro. But thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Prev, I have a question myself as a fan. Do you draw your inspiration for Auntie Shamilla from your own personal life? Does your mom show you?
She does a lot. She does. I never see what it is because I'm too scared to see what it is. You know, they say fear of the unknown. So I always end up doing whatever she asks me to. But yeah, a lot of the content ideas does come from my mom or my grands or my aunts. Yeah. But to answer your question, I don't know what she was going to show me. I've never found out.
Okay, so shout out to Prev's mom. Okay, let's meet our next influencer, Alex Jamie. Let's have a look at her video.
Hi guys, I'm Alex Jamie. I'm so excited to be here again. It's the last day. I low-key feel sad, like I'm not gonna lie, but it's been so nice to get to know a few of you and learning so much from the workshops as well. But yeah, I'm really excited for today, and hopefully we can like put all we've learned together and start some great businesses.
Thank you, Alex. And since we know that you are strong about female empowerment, we hope that you're going to help Virginia on her journey. Eh? We hope that you both can network and collaborate.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you, Alex. Up next, we have Nathan. Let's have a look at his quick video.
I'm literally that one person that would do anything for their mother. Anything. Yo, I'd do anything for my mother. But not dishes. Sorry.
I hope your mother didn't watch that TikTok, Nathan. Let's welcome Nathan.
I doubt she did, because if she did, I wouldn't be here. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's well, guys. I know we're excited for day 3, but I'm kind of sad because it came to an end. It's coming to an end, but I hope everybody has learned some skills on how to become an influencer. And today, I hope y'all receive today's information well. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks so much. I think we are ready to kick off. I would now like to welcome Pedro, and he's going to help facilitate today's session. He's from Vega School of Branding. And like we've mentioned, Vega has been our key partner that has collaborated with us on this initiative. So a huge thank you to Vega School. So let's welcome the brand master himself. Let's welcome Pedro.
Thank you, Swas. Hello, folks. So cool to see all of you guys. Before I start sharing, first of all, thank you to Toughees for initiating this great outreach program. Point number 1. Point number 2, just to recap on where we've been, and also to thank you guys for giving of your time to come here and hear the gospel according to Vega, so to speak. Day 1 was really around understanding brand, understanding what it means to be a brand. Day 2, Suhana took you through the, as I said yesterday, Hogwarts dark arts of understanding pay-per-click, understanding Google AdWords, understanding that whole space. I must just give a shout out to Virginia, an incredible initiative. What you're doing is phenomenal. Yes, the comment that you mentioned, I was doing Facebook ads and I wasn't getting traction. It's okay, you know. So you have to start somewhere. You're not going to start and get 10,000 followers straight away. And it's also okay to not be okay. I know it sounds like a bit of an odd thing, but in this day and age where we're at, is everyone is under pressure. Everyone is got a side hustle. I know we're all trying to put a side hustle together today, but be true, be honest. There was a post I saw on the freeway the other day, which was a poster that said human, kind, and the byline was be both. You know, and so often we forget that we need to reach out. So all I'm saying today is enjoy, reach out, because if you're not true to yourself, it's going to come out in your content. So not to sound like the dad, but I'm just putting it out there. My name is Pedro Casimiro. I am one of the navigators at Vega. I'm also a business coach and have been in the advertising space for many a year. I'm not going to give you the rundown of my last 30 years, but suffice to say, I started off as a fine art graduate, then moved into fashion design, then worked in ad agencies, then worked in global retail, then worked across Africa, across 18 countries, then went into business coaching. So what's the relevance of that narrative is we keep changing. You know, what may be relevant today might not be relevant tomorrow. So one of the things we're going to cover today is defining your purpose. Please don't get hell-bent on going, I don't know what it is. It's undue pressure. You will find it. And that purpose will change over time. So yeah, so that's me. Oh, sorry. Apologies. I I don't have the Youthfluencer background today, long story short, but what I do have are these really cool peeps that are from Mozambique. So one of the things, I am from Mozambique, one of the things you may not know is there are most phenomenal artists and crafters from Mozambique. So, and also it's cool to have a book. Any shape is a good shape. So starting today, in terms of where we are, where we're at as a country, where we're at as a community, the first thing you'll see is we're all different. So whether we're saying Awe Masekint, or where we're saying Sanbonani, or where we're saying Dumelang, or Salams, or Bon dia Toj, we're all the same. We might have different skins, as in masks, not necessarily skins, but we're all here for a common good. We're all here for the community of Africa, and we're all here to become entrepreneurs or to learn how to become better entrepreneurs if we're already there. So in today's little roadmap, it's 3 or 4 very quick and easy concepts to go through. So please take notes if you want, but also if you have any questions, please shout, and we will, between myself, the Toughees team, and your influencers, we will help you as best we can. But in essence, everything, so day 1 and day 2 was leading up to today, because it's all well and good putting content out there. And often I say the number of people that like your post is actually a vanity matrix that counts for nothing. It might be an ego boost to go, oh, look how many people followed me. Just out of interest, of the time that you ladies and gents spend in the online space, outside of social chat, how much time do you spend voyeuristically following someone else? And how much time do you actually spend creating your own content? Because it might sound like a bit of an odd question, but if you have delusions of grandeur of becoming a youthfluencer and yet you're inherently passive, you're actually never going to change that personality to go out there and go, this is me. Because if you're a wallflower, and it's cool to be a wallflower, then be comfortable in the space that you're in, but don't try and put yourself square peg round hole. So we're going to go through how do we set up a business. Then we're going to go through some entrepreneurial case studies. I think Virginia's case study is a phenomenal one. I mean, in essence, we could drop mic and exit stage left, given what Virginia is doing. But it's around a couple of case studies on how entrepreneurs have found something that is different. They've actually solved a problem. And this is the biggest challenge that we face in South Africa at the moment, is there are so few opportunities to get a job, but yet there are tons of opportunities for us to solve problems. And if we can solve those problems in a meaningful way to, like Virginia is doing, in a meaningful way to our community, to our broader society, by default, we're going to have a good business. So that's just looking at some case studies, and then how to create a basic business plan. Now, the 3 highly qualified influencers that you have mentoring you or taking you on this journey over the last couple of days didn't decide one day to wave a magic wand and they had a business plan. They started somewhere and they knew there was a journey. So today we're just going to cut through how to create that basic business plan. And then what are the next steps? So hopefully at the end of this hour and a bit, you're going to be empowered with some great insights, with some really powerful pieces of content, of ideas, and hopefully of a greater network than you had before that will allow you to collaborate and be the change that we need in this country. So Madiba is, what more can we say about the gentleman? He was the founding father of our nation. He stood for equality for all. He stood for empathy. He stood for a whole host of things. But most importantly, he was a leader. And in essence, if you're going to be a business person, over time, you might start as a single entity. If that business grows, you then might have staff. If those staff grow, you might have a little empire like Prev does. If you get, God willing, you get to that stage. But in essence, you're going to need some leadership skills. So what makes a good leader? So I'm going to show a little video from a gentleman by the name of Simon Sinek, who's a phenomenal strategist. A little clip on his take of Madiba's magic.
Nelson Mandela is a particularly special case study in the leadership world because he is universally regarded as a great leader. You can take other personalities, and depending on the nation you go to, we have different opinions about other personalities. But Nelson Mandela across the world is universally regarded as a great leader. He was actually the son of a tribal chief. And he was asked one day, how did you learn to be a great leader? And he responded that he would go with his father to tribal meetings. And he remembers two things when his father would meet with other elders. One, they would always sit in a circle. And two, his father was always the last to speak. You will be told your whole life that you need to learn to listen. I would say that you need to learn to be the last to speak. I see it in boardrooms every day of the week. Even people who consider themselves good leaders, who may actually be decent leaders, will walk into a room and say, here's the problem, here's what I think, but I'm interested in your opinion, let's go around the room. It's too late. The skill to hold your opinions to yourself until everyone has spoken does two things. One, it gives everybody else the feeling that they have been heard. It gives everyone else the ability to feel that they have contributed. And two, you get the benefit of hearing what everybody else has to think before you render your opinion. The skill is really to keep your opinions to yourself. If you agree with somebody, don't nod yes. If you disagree with somebody, don't nod no. Simply sit there, take it all in, and the only thing you're allowed to do is ask questions so that you can understand what they mean and why they have the opinion that they have. You must understand from where they are speaking, why they have the opinion they have, not just what they are saying. And at the end, you will get your turn. It sounds easy, it's not. Practice being the last to speak. That's what Nelson Mandela did.
Okay, so, I mean, given that segue, the old adage, if you've ever heard, you don't know someone until you've walked a mile in their shoes. I think that's very poignant with what Virginia is doing, because some people don't have shoes. But in essence, what do you think makes a great leader? Anyone want to hazard a guess? So we've got leaders serve more than they lead. Yeah, that's a great insight. Risking themselves for others, caring, understanding. All great answers. So there's not one universal truth, but I think if you listen to the takeout of this narrative, I always use a very simple one. Whether you're a person of faith or not, the principle still applies. Is the creator, whoever you think your creator is, gave you 2 ears, he gave you 1 mouth. Use them proportionately. Listen more than you speak. Often we spend so much time creating and formulating an answer to someone else's thought or someone else's view. Listen first. What are you passionate about? So we've discussed what you deem defines a good leader. What are you passionate about? If we can just get some feedback. Okay, making the world a better place, gaming, dance, writing, art, storytelling. Storytelling is a great one. So why storytelling is a really also another great segue to where we're at is as an influencer, as a youthfluencer, the essence of your being is storytelling. If you listen to the narrative of Madiba sitting around the tree with the elders, the entire history of mankind has been based on storytelling, has been based on legacy, has been based on narrative. So whether you're Fifi, whether you're into modeling, or Vimbanishe learning about cultures, Isa helping people, uplifting, whatever that is, they all premised on storytelling. Moving on. So now we've defined our passion. Auntie Shamilla or Prev, depending on which alter ego comes to the fore, talk to me about your passion.
So my passion has always been, like I'm seeing a lot of the comments here, it has been entertaining. It has been performing and acting and the arts from as long as I can remember. From the time I was a kid, there's pictures of me holding a TV remote, singing the Jam Alley theme song. I don't know if anyone remembers Jam Alley, but Jam Alley was my show. So, and you know, to go back to what you were saying earlier with your different jobs, how we evolve and change, my passion evolved within the entertainment industry. It was acting first, and then musical theater, and then writing, and then stand-up comedy, and now content creation. And I think at the core of it, what I've learned now, based on the responses that I get from people and the comments and the DMs, my passion is to entertain, to bring joy and happiness to people. As cliche as it sounds, the people that I've met and some of the, you know, I've been to hospitals to meet fans who are in for depression and for you know, trying to harm themselves, but it was my content that's been getting them through the day. So over the time, I've learned that entertaining is my passion, but a counter to that, or an attachment to that, is to bring joy to people and to make people happy. So yeah, that's what I fully learned now is my purpose here on earth.
Cool, awesome. Alex and Nathan, just 2 seconds from each of you. So based on the slide, hello, my name is your customer. How did you two identify your customer, your sweet spot? Alex?
Well, I'm just very passionate about modeling. Well, it started off with modeling. So anything from that into fashion and lifestyle, I think just putting that out there and knowing that the people that follow me also related to that.
So on my side, I've always been, you know, that funny person. I was one of the class clowns in my school. So I saw the impact that I have on people. So that's my passion. My passion is just to make people happy, because people go through a lot and they don't display that. So all I try to do is just make their day and make them happy.
Cool. Nice one. As you can see, the interests and the passions are as diverse as the ones you've shared within the chat. You just need to find your one, and it's okay for it to change over time. So in terms of putting together a business, we need to identify an opportunity. How did Auntie Shamilla arrive? How did Nathan's dance moves and his thing arrive? How did Alex identify fashion, modeling, top-end industry space? They identified something that needed a solution. So Prev spoke to helping people through potentially troubled times through comedy, whatever it might be. So part of that one little note that you need to jot down, given what your passion is, linked to your passion, what challenge have you identified that needs a solution? So what is out there, in whether it's in your community, like Virginia has done with the shoes and the sanitary pads. Virginia identified challenges, and through her network, she's then created a solution which will perpetuate going forward and pay it forward. So you need to identify something that needs a solution. Secondly, you're not isolated. You're not doing this because you're boosting your ego. It's okay to have an ego, but why do the people need the content that you're wanting to deliver? What skills do you have? So hopefully between day 1, day 2, today, and the weeks to come, you will hone your skills in order to deliver a sustainable solution. Why is a sustainable solution important because it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get to where our esteemed influencers are today. And the fact that they're there is because of hard work, but also because they've evolved. They've learned as they've gone along. And in order for them to be sustainable, they need to stay relevant. So it's almost like having a comedian who's only got one joke. It's great for the first laugh, but thereafter it starts to wane. So what do you do that keeps you relevant? And then Awelani was questioning earlier around, is it good to look at competition? Competition is healthy. Competition forces us all to stay relevant and forces us all not to be complacent. If you're offering something, what are you doing that's different? So there might be in Alex's case, there might be other influencers doing fashion or makeup or whatever it might be. Alex has found her thing, and she's found her point of difference that stands out from the competition. So you need to find your thing. And if there is competition, why you? Why do you think why do we have Nando's, Chicken Licken, Pedro's, this O, every other O doing chicken? Because it's a category that is highly sought after. But every single one of those brands has their unique point of difference. So it might all be chicken, but one of them is doing something better, whether it's battered versus grilled, whether it's spices, whether it's advertising their shtick. Something is a point of difference. So in terms of defining the opportunity, we need to define our purpose. Our purpose is not to make money. And that's often the thing when people go into business. Why do you go into business? No, I'm going to go into business because I want to make bucks. I want to be a baller. It doesn't work like that. You have to have a purpose. Why? Because if you're going to move from being a standalone business, one-man band, one-woman band, to a couple of people, to a collaboration, everyone has to believe in you and believe in the journey that you're proposing we go forward. So again, there's another little video that we're going to watch also from Simon Sinek. And you can't really see here, it's quite low res, but I'll talk you through. Everyone sits in the what space. What do? We sell TVs. How do we do it? Or what do we do? We're social influencers. How do we do it? We put content out there on TikTok, on YouTube, on Insta, on Twitter, whatever. Why do we do it? Now, that's the eureka moment. That's the point of sustainability. Everyone plays in the what space. Everyone can do the how. That's how competition works. Not too many people can replicate your why. Why? Because it's your why. It's no one else's. So in terms of the things you need to ask yourself, and as I said, it's okay to evolve. Your purpose might not be clear now, but it's a work in progress. So you need to ask yourself three things. So who are you? Not I'm Ayataba and I'm in Limpopo. Who are you as a person? What do you do in terms of where you think that point of difference is going to be? And why does it matter? I think that is the fundamental key. Why does what Virginia does matter? Because it's impacting lives positively.
The why was born out of pain. It was never an academic or commercial exercise. It was born out of a time in my life many years ago, 10 years ago, where I had lost my passion for what I was doing. I owned my own small business. I was living the American dream. Superficially, my life was fantastic. And yet I didn't want to wake up and do it again. And I was embarrassed by that. Who am I to complain about my life? My life seemed perfect, and yet I hated it. And so I kept it to myself. Every ounce of my being, all the energy that I had was invested in pretending that I was happier, more successful, and more in control than I felt. And it was debilitating, quite frankly. Strange things start to happen when you put yourself in that cycle and the stress starts to build. You start to become paranoid. So for example, I was convinced that my employees hated me. I didn't go out much, and it was really a bad time. It wasn't until a friend of mine came to me concerned that I wasn't acting myself and basically offered me nothing more than moral support. Whatever you need, I got your back. I'm worried about you. And it was that simple act that gave me the courage to face my own problem. And it was that simple act that gave me the courage to seek out a solution, to go back to the way I used to feel, to be passionate about something again. There was a confluence of events. And I made this discovery that every single organization on the planet, even our own careers, always function on the same three levels: what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. And it was based on the biology of human decision-making. It wasn't some highfalutin management theory. It was based on brain stuff. And I realized I knew what I did. I was good at it. And I knew how I did it. I could tell you what was different or special about the way I did things, but I couldn't tell you why I was doing it. That was the missing piece. You have to have all three. I became obsessed with this thing called the why. I figured out how to find my why, and it restored my passion to levels I had never experienced before. And more importantly, I figured out how to help others find theirs. And I did what anyone would do. When you discover something beautiful, you share it with your friends. And my friends started making crazy life changes themselves. And they started finding happiness and passion that they'd never experienced before. It was me solving my own problem that happened to help others solve it for them too. And people just kept inviting me, and I just kept saying yes. I was making huge decisions that were really easy to make. Like I shut down my office and started over again because I realized the business I had built was so inconsistent with my why. All my friends thought I went out of business and they were worried about me. It was the easiest decision I ever made. In other words, when you know your why, the filter is clear. It's not like there are options. The option is obvious. There's only one option: share, give, inspire. And everything that I've achieved, any success that I've enjoyed, has all been 100% because of the gracious, just amazing generosity of people around me. My friends, my colleagues, people who just believe what I believe. They're the ones who either introduced me to others, or took a risk, or said, let me try that, or bought a book, or watched a TED Talk, or more importantly, sent it to somebody else because they thought they would be inspired by it. For all of the things that I've done over the past decade, I still feel like I'm at the beginning. I've been saying it for 10 years. When everybody says to me, congratulations on X, Y, or Z, my answer is always the same: tip of the iceberg. And I think that's what keeps me inspired, which is, for me, it's a journey. I'm on the right path. I'm walking past the right mile markers. In other words, I know I'm making progress to the vision that I have to build this world in which the vast majority of people wake up every single morning inspired to go to work, feel safer when they're there, returning home at the end of the day fulfilled by the work that they do. When I started the race, I ran by myself, and it's lonely. And now I got like 1,000 people to the left and 1,000 people to the right, and 1,000 people behind me. And I look around, I'm like, yep, we're going to change the world. We're going to change the world. There you go.
Yeah, that's you.
In essence, and not to become too EQ and to play in the space of why do we matter, why do we exist, it's really, really important as a business, because you are the business and the business is you. So if you don't know you, are you actually going to get the best out of your business? So that's the takeout. In terms of where to from here, as society evolves, the biggest thing we're seeing is we want real. We don't want BS. We want brands to align with what we believe. And that's why we align with brands, whether it's Addy or New Balance, or whether it's Mr. Price or Trueworths, or whether it's Shell is maybe not a good example at the moment, but whether it's Shell or BP. There's something in the business value that aligns to you, and hence that's why you resonate with that brand. So find your thing in order to make your opportunity unique. Most importantly, money doesn't fall from the heavens. We need money in order to make money. And we're not saying thousands of rands, but if you're a content creator, what do you need? Well, you need a decent phone with a decent camera, you need data, you need bandwidth. Nowadays, imagine trying to do this on the old ADSL. It would be like a silent movie, because it will be, but Yeah, yeah. It's we need to spend in order to make money. So whichever initiative you folk go out there and find as your thing, if you need someone to help you fund it, what do you need to do? So do you need a business? If you need to go to a bank, or if you need to go to mom or dad or the municipality or whoever it might be to go, please help me, please believe in me, let's take this forward. Where's the plan? How did Virginia put forward all of these initiatives? There has to be some funding coming from somewhere. Virginia must have had a plan to put it together. I would assume most of us around here are creative, because by nature, if we're creating content, we are creative. That doesn't mean that if you can only draw a stick figure, you're not creative. Creative is in thought process, not in physical manifestation. What we found, and over the years in dealing with both students and upcoming businesses, is for whatever reason, people are scared of numbers. Excel is like a swear word. If you say to someone Excel or pivot tables, they go, out, damn spot. You know, it's like Satan scorned. We have to embrace numbers, folks. If we are going to create sustainable businesses, we need to know the numbers. For those of us who still get an allowance, how do you budget? So in essence, you have an allowance, you get an allowance, you know it needs to last you a month or whatever it might be, or a week. You know that you're going for a jawl on a particular night, so you save up for it, you go big on that one night, and then hopefully you've still got money for a Bolt home or an Uber or an ice cream, whatever it might be. But in essence, in business, it's exactly the same thing. I'm going to ask Prev to come and play Minister of Finance. In the influencer space, your sales are in essence the content that you're putting out there. The cost of sales is the things that you need to deliver that content. As I said, your phone, your fiber line. In Alex's case, it might be some photography, because obviously in the image projection space, the image is the content. So there are costs involved in creating those sales. The two minus each other is a gross profit. If you get to a business and you then become big enough to have to pay Uncle Taxman, you then have to deduct tax, and the end of it is your pocket money, in essence. So, Prev, how did you learn this lesson, and was it a tough love lesson that you had to learn?
No, not necessarily. So I think, again, unlike Alex, who would have to buy clothes and makeup, and that's sort of an investment for the content that she has to make. So that would sort of be her sort of cost of sales. I just had to, put on a gown that my mom had in her cupboard and a wig that my sister had from one of her dance shows. And that was me done. My phone was a gift for a birthday previously. And like Alex edits on a free editing software, I also started editing on a free software. So at the beginning, nothing was costing me anything to make my content. Once we started to grow, and once we started to get bigger, and once we started to get paid campaigns and paid partnerships, then I sort of had to start investing in a little bit. So buying nicer gowns, buying nicer wigs that wouldn't, fall apart. And then I do pay tax, but majority of the time it's PAYE, which is pay as you earn, or the companies that I'm doing brand deals with would already deduct the tax, or my agency would deduct the tax. So at the beginning, there was no profit and no cost of sales, because I wasn't making money in the beginning. I was just making content that was going viral and getting a lot of engagement. And now there still is no sort of cost of sales, because I have everything I require. So it's just really tax and profit that happens now.
Okay, and in terms of going forward, where's Auntie Shamilla 2.0, and would you need CapEx to grow that entity?
100%. So there's currently a Auntie Shamilla TV show being developed, which is requiring money and funding and a whole lot of putting together a cost of what this project will cost us and from who and from where. So and there's money coming from my side being pumped in. Another example was when I launched my merch, a lot of that cost was me. So I had to find suppliers, I had to find embroidered and manufacturers and people who could embroider, and so, and a lot of those costs come from me. So I guess when it's businesses that aren't related to actual content making, that's when the sort of formula comes into play for me. But again, I also now have a team of people that have been doing this, that know how to do this, that guide me and work with me through it. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So we are going to cover it later, but there's a lot of peeps asking, how do they monetize their passion? So Ati was asking how you get paid on social. If I can maybe ask Alex or Nathan to hop in here in terms of how did you end up monetizing your thing? Did you go out there and look for sponsors, or did they come to you based on the traction that you had within your sweet spot?
Well, on my case, I started TikTok in 2019 and it was a fun thing. I was just creating content, you know. I didn't care about the brands. I didn't even know. And then they started coming to me and then I was like, okay, this is becoming serious. And then that's how it started. I've never approached a brand before. They always come to me.
So when I started, I was actually very different. I reached out to brands with the media kits. I literally sent an email to every single brand I wanted to work with. And there was nothing for like a full year, like just nothing. I was putting out content, but also like sending my media kits at the same time. And then the following year, I got contacted by Mr. Price through email. So clearly they saw my email or something. So I feel like that did work for me. And that's how I started working with my first brand.
If you don't mind me adding in to everyone who doesn't know, but you can get paid from Facebook and YouTube every month based on your watches per minute and watches per hour. So on YouTube, you need to have over 2,000 or 4,000 subscribers to then be able to monetize your account. You then need to get over 4,000 watch hours or 4,000 watch minutes. Just, I could be wrong on what it is exactly. And then Google then starts to pay you monthly between 1,000 and 20,000 Rand, depending on how well your content does. The same with Facebook. So once you cross a certain threshold on Facebook of likes on your page, you're then eligible to monetize your page, meaning they can do ad overlays, they can do ad breaks, and you can get paid from Facebook similarly to the way you get paid on YouTube. Facebook is much easier with their watch times. It's not as high as YouTube. So in terms of, I mean, apart from reaching out to brands and getting brands to approach you, there are steady forms of monetization on those two platforms. I know you can on TikTok in America, but it's not here in South Africa yet.
Great feedback from our panelists. And I hope you folks found that insightful. It's really cool. The amount of sharing here, the love is real, peeps. It's really, really cool. So the first part was looking at the opportunity, looking at the business, looking at challenges, looking at potential areas that you can match your passion with a challenge. The next part is the introspection, it's around looking internally and identifying why you're doing this. And again, it's not to be a baller. And I know everyone goes through a life cycle and it's okay to be a baller and just to sit there and go, show me the money and put the right brands here and there. But ultimately, that may not be sustainable. There are tons of people that make a bucket load of money and they sustain it. But ultimately, you should be doing it first and foremost for passion. And if you do it for passion, the money will come. Don't be greedy. Stay true to the course. Be honest. Be real. You have to be real. So yes, Prev has an alter ego, but for those of you who may or may not have noticed, he's shared a lot in the weeks prior to this when we did some dry runs. He's shared a lot of himself and his fears, his aspirations. He's being real. And people buy into realness. People can spot fake a mile away. So just stay real. No man is an island. The whole concept of Ubuntu is I am because we are because you are. We have to be empathetic. We have to be able to understand people. We have to be able to meet them at their level. The fact that someone has a doctorate doesn't mean that when they speak to someone at the bottom of the food chain, that they should approach them very differently. We are all the same when it comes to being human. So empathy is coupled at the tote with that. Secondly, it's your baby. So when you start this journey that you're on now, it might be difficult to delegate because it's your thing. But as it grows, as Prev was saying earlier, he was doing it all himself. Now he has a team who helps him. But if you don't understand, or if you don't have the skill of delegation, what's going to happen? You're actually going to spin out of control because you're going to try and do it all yourself. And I'm trying to track followers. I'm trying to track which piece of content is working better than the other. And my schedule is out of kilter. You need to be able to delegate. And it's a skill that will stand you in good stead, irrespective of what industry you go into, even outside of being a youthfluencer. It's a skill, it's a humanitarian skill that helps us pay it forward. And lastly, and most important one, although I said it's okay to have an ego, people love affirmation. People love to hear they've been acknowledged. So it's a skill that sometimes comes easy to people, sometimes it doesn't. You need to be able to work on giving people affirmation. Put it out there, it will come back to you in spades. As I've said over and over again, people spot BS a mile away. So you need to be real, you need to be honest, and make your storytelling visual. Audio, visual come together. You need to put things together to stand out from the clutter. And I forget the stat. I mean, I'm not one big for stats because every statistician makes up their own stats. But we are plundered with hours and hours and hours of content every single day. What makes your piece of content stand out from the clutter? Why does Prev lose days on TikTok? Why do we do it? So there's one component that is it passes time, which is cool. It potentially allows you to gather insights, to gather thoughts, ideas. But what makes your TikTok video stand out from everyone else's TikTok video? I mean, how many more dances can we see? Unless Nathan's going to do another new one for us. All I'm saying is stand out from the clutter. By default, as I said earlier, is we are all creative in nature if we're creating content. Creativity is permanent. Passion and energy comes and goes. So we always need to wake up, have our little mantra, whatever it is, be the ultimate human being. So this is not just about creating content. It's about what's your relationship like with your family? What's your relationship like with your mates? What's your relationship like with your community? What do you do to yourself? When you wake up in the mirror, are you the best version of who you want to be? So whether it's exercise, whether it's eating healthily, whether it's your faith, whether it's community, whatever it is, fulfill or replenish that energy as often as you can, because there will come times where you get a little bit flat, and it's okay to be flat. Never stop learning. I'm in my 50s now. I'm still learning. I'm learning every single day. Age is not a driver or a precursor to being clever. You've got super bright people at the age of 12. You've got super bright people at the age of 90. Always stay relevant. Never stop learning. So the key takeouts of step number 1 is define your purpose. Know what it is. Number 2, who are you going to create that value for? Number 3, don't be scared of competition. Always plan ahead. You can't, as Prev was saying, between YouTube, Facebook, they expect a lot. If you end up on their dial and they start paying you for your skills, you're going to have to stay relevant. You're going to have to push content that is newsworthy, that has high levels of engagement. By nature or by default, you have to plan for that. So always plan ahead. Don't be a knee-jerk reaction kind of person. And also surround yourself with people that will give you the affirmation that you need, but also bolster you. We can't do it ourselves. Ultimately, always have fun. Why are we here? We're here to learn, to share, but to also have fun.
I respond to fan DMs. Yes, I do. Like I said in the other workshops, I actually take a day out to respond to everyone that has a question. So I do respond to fan DMs.
How do you identify competition? That's a good one. I think it's anyone who comes up very quickly within your realm of what you do. Elsa Majimbo is a friend of mine, and she and I started chatting before she blew up and became Majimbo, that Majimbo is the person that she is now. And when she started, I stumbled upon her content on my For You page. And I thought she was hilarious. That time, I had more followers than her. And then, yeah, she asked for advice, and I put her in touch with a couple people. And I was just like, you're so funny and you're so authentic. Keep doing what you're doing, because I swear to you, regardless of where you're from, people are going to find this funny. And she kept doing what she was doing. And now Zendaya follows her and she lives in America. So I think the moment she started, her videos are going beyond viral. I'm like, that is competition. But it was great because she leaned in. I think, like Pedro was saying in that last bit of that slideshow, was that lean into your passion, lean into your creativity. And I think that's what she did. She knew it was working. And then once she fully leaned into it, it blew up. And I was like, that's great. It's competition because look, she's blowing up, but she knows what she's doing. And I got to do that now. I got to lean more. I got to take my own advice and lean more into what I do. How do you respond to irritating people in your DMs? Nathan, Alex? I don't. How do you respond to irritating people in your DMs?
I feel like most people who try to spread hate or they try to bring you down are the people that want your attention. So unfortunately, I don't give them my attention. Yeah. I literally don't.
You share content you make on TikTok to Instagram, like as a way to market and promote yourself? Yeah, I think if you're making a piece of content, you post it on all your active platforms. I specifically curate my content or do different edits of a video for different platforms. So my Facebook videos would be a full-length video that targets 25 to 55-year-olds. My Instagram video will be the same video edited to suit an 18 to 25-year-old, and my TikTok version would be a 60-second to suit a 12-year-old to an 18-year-old. So I guess that is a form of marketing yourself, because you're trying to position yourself in a way that speaks to a different audience. And I think because Auntie Shamilla is sort of family friendly, she can speak to these different age groups. So I try and angle it to market myself to a specific demographic. I don't know how Alex and Nathan do it.
Oh, Prev, that's so smart, man.
That is actually quite smart. Like, I didn't think of that. Like, to adjust the videos and stuff. That's really smart.
It works.
That's really smart, actually.
Yeah, I've actually learned something as well. So
yeah.
How do you find different content to create when you're redoing your passion when others are already doing the trend? I'll let Nathan and Alex do that because I think you guys deal more with trend related videos. How do you find different content to create when you're already doing your passion when others are already doing the trend? So I think the question is, how do you find your perspective to create, like how do you create content from your perspective with regard to a trend if you've already found your passion? I don't know, the passion one is throwing me off, so I'm just going to go with how do you find your POV to bring something different to a trend? So if there's a trend on TikTok, what do you do that's very Nathan specific or Alex specific?
Well, in my case, if ever there's maybe a trend or a challenge that's currently ongoing, I try to hop on it and then I try to change something about it, make it my own.
Yeah, just adding like your own
my own spot, you know?
Yeah.
If I can possibly hop in there. So if you look at why is Nando's such a great advertiser, is they don't come up with this stuff. It's already out there in the universe. All they do is they comment on it and they put their own spin on it.
Yeah.
So coming back to the question. So there was a question around passion. In essence, you don't have to, maybe passion, because it's such a passionate word, might throw you. Whatever your interest is, just find that interest and start. That interest might become a passion over time. This is not a scenario where you just add water and stir and hey presto, here's passion. It starts with an interest. It starts with something, and you plant that seed, you water it. If it starts getting traction by default and you start getting that affirmation, that interest will become a passion over time. So don't be stressed if you go, I don't have a passion. You must have an interest. Everyone has an interest, a hobby, something that you have a view on. You have to have a view. Otherwise, how are you going to put content out there?
I also think content creation is basically making your hobby a career. That's exactly what a lot of us have done. A hobby or a passion, really, and have just somehow made it a career.
Yeah.
So everyone must have a hobby.
So I hope you do all support Proudly Local. Don't buy Hong Kong stuff. Please go out there and buy the local stuff. We've now gone through defining the business, how we get to some sort of point of difference. Now we're going to look at some case studies. Based on the chat that we've had in the break, can anyone tell me who the brands are, obviously besides the one that you can read, from left to right, and what makes them unique? There's something specific to every single one of these brands, because in essence, people are also brands. There's something unique across all of those brands. They are all obviously proudly local, but they've all gone on to make it big internationally. So whether it's food, whether it's quality shoes, whether it's music, whether it's tea, whether it's sport, all of these brands have started proudly local and have blown up globally. So what's the relevance? All of these people started with an idea. All of these brands started with an idea, and they did something that served a purpose, and they're now global. So don't undersell yourselves. Shoot, as a sort of cliche, shoot for the stars. If you don't land there, at least you'll land on the moon. Be like these brands and think big. When we looked at case studies, I thought, well, it's no point saying to you, well, here's Elon Musk. Everyone knows Elon Musk. Here's black coffee. Everyone knows black coffee. So when I looked at case studies, I looked at entrepreneurs and identified 3 or 4 who've done something different. They've disrupted the marketplace. And I think this is the key point around content, and where I was saying, how do you stand out from the clutter, is your content needs to be disruptive. Now, not disruptive in an aggressive way. It just needs to go, oh, when people see it, they go, oh, why didn't I think of that? So the first person, and I would just like to use these examples if you're a little bit lost in terms of how do I define my passion? How do I find my thing to create content? Look at what these folk did in terms of finding the opportunities. So what Kim did is there were 2 scenarios. So obviously during COVID, a lot of our nursing or frontline healthcare workers were working double shifts. There was no space in hospitals, as you recall. That's why we had all these lockdowns, because the hospitals were full to capacity. The flip side of the hospitals being maximized in terms of capacity was our hospitality industry literally died overnight. There was no one allowed to go out. So default, you had these hotels with empty beds, and you had these hospitals with not enough beds. And what Kim did is she put the 2 together and created this opportunity to have 2 entities get value out of solving a problem. So that was a challenge of, we need more beds, and the opportunity was, where can we find beds? So just start thinking a little bit more laterally in terms of identifying opportunities. When you're looking around your community, these are the kind of things you need to look out for. The second one, Kwawe, as we know, that the first 6 years of any child's life really is the molding component of how that person is going to grow up and what their moral values are, what their moral compass is. And reading is critical to that. I know we're in an age now where everything is digital, everything is audio-visual, as I was saying earlier, but reading is still a fundamental core requirement of our humanitarian or humanity development as a person. So Kwawe identified that there was a lack of vernac children's books. So he came along and he said, listen, I don't want the cat sat on the mat, all the things that we grew up with. He came up with an opportunity to look at what is it to be African, what is our identity, and African proverbs, what cultural narratives do we have to tell, and put those into a digital library, because obviously to get it out there may be challenging, put it into a digital library in vernac. So what did he solve? He took digital as a concept, as a conduit, and put content out there to a specific target market in all 11 official languages. Very, very cool idea. In hindsight, when you think of it, you go, well, that's quite simple, but no one else was thinking of it. Cameron, also very, very cool. Why must we be Eurocentric or Americanized in our GIFs and our memes? Cameron has created local memes. So as we were saying, Awe, Masakant, or Ola Ola, or Shoplift, or Mzansi, those are really inculcated in our essence. They are our South Africanness. So why should we have American memes? Why not create our own memes? Very, very cool opportunity that he identified, and he's monetized it. Just a little video just to show these gents. So just to give you some context, these gents are in a dusty township. They are fashion makers, or they're clothing makers. And against all odds, they created, in essence, a Kasi brand born out of the dusty streets from a clothing point of view, but have created a sustainable business model. So again, how do we pay it forward? How do we make this thing grow?
I'm Kululeko Masego, the founder and the designer of Toughees. This is my co-founder. I'm Caridas Quintolo. I do business development for Toughees. It all began with a question and a prayer. Who am I and what can I do and what can I change in this world? I wanted something to represent the hustle. So while we were chilling with my friend, I drew the wheelbarrow and the Prev. I don't know how I drew it. I was just playing, but at the end, the final product, it was the wheelbarrow. Then for me, then it was my answer. That's my trademark. I took it from there, went to register in. I started teaching myself how to make clothes.
In our community, we have lots of young people who are involved in drugs, who are unemployed, who resort to things like crime. So Toughees is also an engine to help create employment within townships, particularly our township.
I'm an entrepreneur in clothing and textile business as well. And I'm helping Toughees basically when they have a lot of order with their staff, they come and use us as subcontracting company. Generates an income as well for us because of we charge them per item.
Our big goal is to increase our production capacity so that we can employ even more people in the township and make more change in people's lives. It's all good and well to say, go get a job or go hustle, but we want to do it practically. And as we grow the company, we want to reach into other townships and show them that we can start with just an idea.
In essence, what these guys did is they identified an opportunity to create a brand literally out of a wheelbarrow that they found as a mnemonic. They saw a wheelbarrow around the home. They thought that's a really cool icon. and they made a clothing brand out of it. But they took it one step further. They then took that clothing brand, and it was only a two-man team. They couldn't make those clothes fast enough. They then went into the community and found other people who could actually sew the clothes for them. So just a really, really cool opportunity around how can we make it a collaboration. Started small, it started with an essence. It started with an idea, and that idea manifested and grew into a brand. That brand grew into a community outreach program. So if you can take that thread as a learning, job done. So the key takeouts are really around each one of those people found something that was unique. So yes, they were all different industries. What do you think was the common takeout?
Yeah, I think it was basically identifying a gap in the market, I guess, and then taking the opportunity to fill that gap.
Yes, peer, community, yes, solving a problem. It's the only way you're going to create that opportunity is actually being present and being open to looking for those opportunities. It's the same thing coming back to Virginia's initiative is Virginia was present in her community and identified those needs. It is, yes, IT, it's making the best out of tough situations. So it's not, don't make the assumption that being a content creator is coming from a privileged background. You can still come from anywhere and have something of value to share. The fact that we're able to share that passion in the digital space is what makes this whole course so cool, because it's not about putting stuff out there on social. You might think about that it's, we're just putting content out there. We're actually making a meaningful contribution in people's lives, and that's the difference. In terms of, I must tell you a strange story. So Koo, you obviously know as the tinned fruit, beans, whatever. I worked with a Tiger Brands a couple of years in Mozambique, doing a whole outreach program, bottom of pyramid seeding and sampling of products. And the biggest challenge about the brand, that in Portuguese vernac, Koo means your bottom. So they were wondering why, and again, just stay relevant, remember who your audience is. They were wondering why the brand was battling to take traction. You've got a brand named, a food brand named after your bottom. Yes.
Oh, that's a very funny story.
Sure. Okay. So a lot of you folk then haven't seen the recent Jamie Oliver post around the supposed meat that is in McDonald's burgers that has been bleached and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, do yourselves a favor, those of you at 87% who love Mickey D's, always look at both sides of the story. Go and search for Jamie Oliver taking McDonald's to court.
He won that case, didn't he? He did win it.
He did. So maybe go, before you go out at the end of this session and have a Mickey D's for lunch, maybe go and look at that piece of content. Moving on to healthier and more tasty tidbits. Everything starts and ends with your customer. I know it sounds quite obvious, but Prev, Alex, Nathan know who their customer is. They create content because they know who their target market is. Otherwise, they would be creating, it's almost like the analogy that I sometimes use, what's the point of winking in the dark? No one's going to know. So you need to understand your customer. So who are they? Who are the people? So it could be, Prev, I know we discussed it earlier. You identified with, your content started with local, with sort of taking a jab or a jib at local Indian community, but yet you've now got global, and I'm sure you all have, have global followers.
Yeah.
How did you define the starting point, and how did you track that customer is actually morphed, and how did it go global?
I think what the important thing was to speak about stories to people that grew up with a similar story. So for me, that was the Indian culture, things that we grew up experiencing with our parents, etc., etc. And I focused on that. I didn't try and take on everybody. And that sort of grew and evolved because then I started to realize or notice that there were a lot of Black and colored kids who are like, hey, my mom is exactly the same. She doesn't do, not in that specific way, but it's exactly the same. And from then I realized that we were dealing with opinionated, strong women who love discipline. And that's what us kids go through, as what I've noticed as kids of color go through. And so I rolled with that and grew with it and developed the character more. And then I realized, okay, and Shamilla is sort of like Medea or Big Mama or, any of these characters. And then it clicked and I was like, okay, so there is versions of this existing of opinionated people who are doing drag basically, because Tyler Perry does drag in Medea. I'm basically doing drag in Auntie Shamilla. And that's when I realized it started with speaking to the Indian community. And then I realized that there is a whole market for people who enjoy guys portraying, grannies or moms or aunties. And that's when it clicked and that's when it evolved. That's when the audience evolved. And I realized that that's who the market is now. It's no longer just Indian households and Indian kids.
So you then, by default, you identified their needs and wants, aspirations, maybe not their aspirations, but you identified a common thread that you then create content to deliver on that.
Yes.
And how does it fulfill the needs? So from Alex's point of view, so let me go. So from Prev's point of view, everyone needs a good laugh. Everyone needs a giggle. It's food for the soul. You're giving Mickey D's happiness. You're creating happiness. Alex is, in my mind, creating almost a mood board of image. You empower people to become the best version that they can be through fashion, through apparel, through makeup, whatever it might be. We all have something to offer. We need to know how we fulfill someone else's need. Ultimately, if we're trying to monetize this, and this is the big, how do we do it? And there is no silver bullet. I don't have the answer, but you need to identify how many people are out there that you could potentially do what you want to do to. Because if there are 5 people and then you sit there waiting and you're going, why is no one clicking like, share, comment? Because there's only 5, well, then you're going to become despondent. So you need to know how big that potential audience is in order to also give yourself the affirmation that, hell yes, I can do this. I'm going out there to get to these people. And if they're currently being serviced, so if they are having Medea as their current shtick, or man, there was a drag queen in the 80s whose name I forget. He was like the doyen of schlick disco drag queen, but other people came along. So there were always competition. What made people come to Prev instead of someone else? Why is that relevant? Because you need to know what your point of difference is, that unique thing that is yours. And most importantly, and I think that's the premise of these last 3 days, is how do they like to be communicated with? You might go, TikTok is my thing because I'm comfortable with it. I know how to do it. I know how to create TikTok videos. But if your market is old folk like me sitting on Facebook, well, there's an absolute disconnect between your content and the target audience because you're not on the same page. So if I can maybe just ask our learned influencers, how did you decide where your space, your wheelhouse was in terms of your socials?
So again, like what I was saying during the break is that my 3 platforms have 3 very different age groups. And when I do the live shows, I see those age groups come together. So again, because Auntie Shamilla and the content is relevant, I think, to each age group, I don't shy away from any of them. I just curate different edits for different platforms. So I would do a video where the punchline is relevant to everybody, but I'll do a different cut of build up to speak to a different audience. So Facebook would be for my older audience, Instagram would be for my 18 to 28-year-olds or 32-year-olds, and TikTok would be to my 12 and 18-year-olds. So I started on Facebook because that's where, I mean, predominantly my main source of audience is from. Older Indian women, older Indian grands, aunties, uncles, and then from there worked my way to Instagram and then worked my way to TikTok.
Okay, Alex?
So I started actually on YouTube, and I noticed that it wasn't getting as much interaction than my Instagram. So I started using Instagram more and posting like shorter clips on there of makeup instead of posting it on YouTube. So Instagram is my main like community that I've built, but also I do post on my YouTube or TikTok, and it's just different types of content for the audience, like Prev was saying. But yeah.
So the one thing I would also say from a digital strat point of view, because ultimately you are going to create a digital strategy, is from a search engine optimization, use multiples. Because if Google bots see that you're getting traffic in Insta coming from YouTube, they're going to give you a higher ranking as well. So that's another little neat trick. From if you understand the Google algorithm and you understand how it ranks you, because ultimately you want to be on page 1. No one actually goes to page 2 of any search. It's almost the sum of the parts. So if you can create some sort of reciprocal linking between your Insta page, your TikTok page, your LinkedIn page, your website, if you have, the probability of you ranking higher for your whatever your thing is going to be greater. Nathan, sorry, I left you out in terms of your channel choices. Your target market, how did you identify which channels were best for you in terms of optimizing your traffic?
It has always been TikTok. I'd say that's my only channel that I'm currently focused on. So to identify my audience, when TikTok started, it became difficult because it was still new and most of the audience was from the US. But since it started, since the quarantine and whatnot, most South Africans started coming on the app.
Okay, nice one. Cool, thank you. So once we've identified our point of difference, once we've identified who we're doing, whatever we're doing to, we've identified which channels, we have some very big, clever marketing words here, but in essence just means why you versus someone else. So what is your point of difference? What is your value proposition? So value proposition is a really key term that you'll come up over and over and over again in the brand space, but in essence, it means what value is someone deriving from interacting with you as a brand. And we've discussed the why, and thereafter we put together 3 things: a mission, a vision, values, and goals, which in the simplest terms are: where are we now? Where do we want to get to? What are we going to do to get there? And I suggest all of you, even if it's in a rudimentary, write it down on a piece of paper. My mission is, I want to be something, some sort of aspiration. And the difference between the mission and the vision is, what is this going to look like in the future? The mission is, Virginia identified the need for basic services in her community, and there are a host of needs. For now, she's focusing on school shoes and girls' sanitary pads. That's Virginia's mission for now. She can add to it over time based on her vision. The goals literally are, where do we want to get to? Always remember with goals, please don't keep them open-ended. In other words, you have to be accountable for something. So the easiest one is, I am going to lose 5 kgs in the next 3 months. That is very easy to check if we received or if we've met those goals, because it's SMART. So SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So there's no point being whimsical about goals. I want to play for the Springboks. I want to play for Man United. I want to be the next Gordon Ramsay. I want to be the next Prev. That's not a goal. That's a wish, that's a dream. And it's cool to have a dream, but if you're going to validate and quantify that journey, it needs to be made specific. Looking at Toughees, just so you go, well, okay, that's a little bit abstract. How do we now put that into practice? So Toughees has a mission, a vision, has values. Rox or Swas, are you still around? Do you want to maybe talk 2 secs to those?
So basically, this the Youthfluencer initiative obviously was birthed out of the fact that we were in COVID, and the fact that everything is now online. And as a brand, it's very important for us to be able to diversify. It's also very important for us to stay on the pulse. And that is when we came up with the Youthfluencer concept. And the reason why that actually resonates with the brand so well is because we also feel like, our biggest audience is actually the youth. We put on 4 million school shoes on the feet of kids every single year, and it's growing. So as a brand, it was very important for us to be able to give back. And it's very important for us to be able to show that we are a brand that is relevant and is that is on trend. And just from Virginia's story, it's also very important for us to be able to be a brand that makes impact. And that's exactly what I believe the Youthfluencer is actually doing. So that's in line with our mission, our vision of being a brand that cares and gives back. At the same time, education is one of the main pillars, the fundamentals for this brand as well. So that is why this online unconventional sort of seminar or webinar is definitely the direction the world is going. So yeah, as a brand, we saw that as an opportunity, and we felt, okay, cool, we can align that very nicely with who we are as a brand.
Awesome, thank you. So coming back to the abstract concept, all of you thinking, well, okay, so I'm into community work, or I'm into clothing design, whatever it might be. How do I quantify a goal? Well, here's a great example based on what we've tried to do collectively over the last 3 days. Is we want to attract a teenage audience. What did we do? We defined it. There's an age group defined. How? Through social, it's defined. What do we want to do based on current usage of our social touch points? So Toughees as a brand has an Insta page. What do they want to get as a net growth out of this process? They wanted a 15 to 25% growth because of this campaign. How do they measure it? There's a whole lot of fancy, clever people at Google who gives us Google Analytics, and we can go behind the scenes and track engagement. We can track a whole host of things. And ultimately, what do we need to make sure is that what we're delivering to you is relevant. So given that you're all interested in hopefully becoming youthfluencers, becoming better members of community, making a difference in people's lives, becoming entrepreneurs, adding value to our nation, the content needed to be relevant to what you're yearning for, what you're looking for. So hopefully you'll be able to now see how you can take mission, vision, values, goals, and actually make them really specific. So they need to be part of the last T in SMART is timelines, which is what we're going through now. In order for us to define our point of difference, we need to do a SWOT. So a SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So as a business or as a future youthfluencer or a future entrepreneur, what are your current strengths? What are your current weaknesses? Why are those important? Because we need to then mitigate those. We need to try and turn those weaknesses into strengths. What are the opportunities? Well, the opportunities are literally what this 3-day session is about, is how do we define opportunities for us to go and grow and make a difference in the community? What are the threats? Threats are things, so it's not, I'm going to run out of money. That's not a threat, or I'm going to run out of data or airtime. Threats in this sense, in terms of the SWOT model, are things that are beyond our control. So they're external things in the external environment. And there's an acronym for threats called PESTLE, which stands for political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. So relative to the context of what we're discussing over the last couple of days, I hope you're all aware of POPI Act. So the POPI Act now tells us that So it's the Personal Protection Information Act. If we have followers, so Nathan, Alex, Prev have followers, there's almost a code of conduct. So those of you who watch Dexter has a code. It's the same here. There's a code of conduct of what we can or cannot do. And there's a legal obligation. You cannot share people's information. You cannot send unsolicited information. So if part of your social growth strategy is to send out hypothetically MailChimp emails to people saying, this is who I am, this is my brand, follow me on these socials, part of that MailChimp template has to have a button that gives people the opportunity to opt out of that message. You cannot spam people anymore. You also have to give them the opportunity to opt in. Once they've opted in, obviously, then you can communicate with them. But every piece of content that you put out there in email format specifically has to allow people to opt out. So just think of those things. You need to be aware. You don't need to be a legal, but you need to understand the playing field that you're playing in. So there are two models that I share both with my students and with young entrepreneurs that I think are really great tools in terms of, so I've been given all of this information, what now? Where's the blueprint for my business? So the first one is called the business model canvas. You're more than welcome to Google it. There's a host of content out there. And when you look at it, we start off with this sheet and you go, oh my word, that's a hell of a lot of stuff to try and process. But it's actually quite simple. So we're going to start, if you can see my cursor, we're going to start in the middle. So why do we start in the middle? Because that's our point of difference. As I said to you, that buzzword earlier, our value proposition. What value do people derive from either engaging on our content or buying our product or service? So that's the midpoint. Everything on the right of the value proposition are the things that you want to do and the money that you're wanting to make. So let's start at the far right-hand side. Who's the customer segment? So Prev identified initially that it was potentially folk of the Indian community who resonated with Auntie Shamilla because they got a sense of, he's my peep. So you need to define that customer segment. Secondly, what relationship do I have or do I want to have with that customer segment? Thirdly, which channels am I going to use to communicate to that customer segment? Sorry, I got my dogs barking, so apologies. Fourthly, how do I monetize it? How do I create revenue from delivering this value to these people through these channels? So that's almost the sales in side of the model. On the left-hand side of the value proposition is, what do we need to do to actually generate this revenue? So we now need to look at, so what are the key activities relative to these channels? So are we going to put out X number of pieces of content? What are the resources that we need to deliver that content? So in Alex's case, it might be photographic services, it might be makeup, whatever it might be. Based on those resources, can we do it alone? Can we do it in-house? Do we have it ourselves or do we need key partners? So obviously key partners are people that you would do it with. It could be a management company, it could be a photographer in Alex's case, whatever it might be, who's your key partner? And more importantly, how much is it going to cost you to use those people? Because these guys and girls are helping you deliver your value proposition. Ultimately, what do we want to gauge is if the left-hand side, in other words, the cost attached to creating content is less than the money I'm going to make from that content, I go ahead with the job. I've gone through it very quickly, just so now that you can see how it fits in, and you can do this for anything. Although it's a business model canvas, you can do it for you coming up with a new idea. So Let's use Prev's example. So Prev was Auntie Shamilla, alter ego, putting content out there on socials, and it's doing a job, and Prev's getting a revenue stream. Level 1, he's quite happy. How did the TV show come about? Prev could have used this exact same model to say, well, my customer segment, current relationship is on social, but there's an opportunity now as a new channel to go on TV. He goes across to the right-hand side. He says, what is it going to cost me to go on TV? If I'm going to make enough money from this new initiative relative to the cost, I'll go ahead with the TV channel. So it's a very, and I'm overly simplifying it. I'm getting a little bit tongue-tied. I'm making it overly simple, but in essence, that's how the model could work really, really nicely in terms of looking at it and saying, what is my point of difference? Who do I want to engage with? What is the current relationship I have with them? Because you're not all going to start on a blank sheet. You might have some equity in the social space already. Which channels do I use? How do I monetize it? So that's model number 1. Model number 2 is us marketers are full of acronyms, so apologies. But the second one is the SOSTAC model. And again, you can use it for anything. You can even use it to look at a single piece of content. So what is the situational analysis? What is the objective? The objective is a goal. I want to do something. What is the strategy? Strategy is a plan. How do I put a plan together to do it? What are the tactics that I have available to deliver on that plan? How do I physically deliver it? And then ultimately the control is, so did it work? So I put that piece of content out there. How many people actually engaged with it? How many people, if I had a 3-minute piece of content, how many people sat through the entire 3 minutes? Did people bail early? So it's a really, really cool, also another tool to look at linking to mission, vision, values, goals is where are we now? Where do we want to get to? How do we get there? How do we develop this plan? Whether it's content, whether it's our own brand, we have to have a plan. What are the tactics and the tools to get there? How do we physically implement them? And then ultimately, how do we manage and report? So coming back to Virginia's example is Virginia's situational analysis is she's based in Limpopo. She's mentioned the name of the village. Apologies, I've forgotten the name already, but there is a situational analysis. The objectives were we need to ensure that all girls can go to school, not have to worry about having a period, making them miss school. So sanitary pads are the way to go. We want to give everyone free sanitary pads. That's the objective. What's the strategy? Well, there's certain things in place or we need to put in place to get there. What are the tools and tactics? Well, one of the tools and tactics is that Virginia was very fortunate to come and share her message through this social channel. She's implemented it. How is she going to manage and report it? Well, if you folks start engaging with her or anyone in Limpopo sees this and goes, this is a great worthy cause, or Toughees saw it and said, man, this is a great cause. We're going to donate X number of shoes. Her control is this is how many shoes we had before. This is how many shoes we have now. Job done. So that's a really, really cool, simple model to use. So looking at it in terms of old school visuals, people love visuals. First of all, you need to know your audience, define where you're going, do that SWOT analysis so you can figure out your strengths and so that you can mitigate your weaknesses and leverage those opportunities. Be aware of the threats, but they're beyond your control, but just be aware of them. Know who you're up against. Use any business model. So I've given you 2 business models. There are thousands of business models out there, but use something simple. Don't make it complex. Use something simple that you can relate to. Why do you need it? Because everyone needs a plan. Anything that sits, the old adage, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You don't have a plan, you can't action it. And ultimately, put it out there, have fun, and evolve. We need to constantly evolve. So, key takeouts. We've discussed passion, we've discussed segments, we've discussed your why, we've discussed the tools that we've got to empower ourselves. Prime example. So, those of you who may or may not know Dr. Esther Mhlangu. So, Esther was a painter, and she uses, her thing was Indebele prints. So those of you who've seen Indebele prints is generally on houses. She took what was something that was proudly local, but at a tribal level, and she took it to the world, to the point where BMW asked her to do a collaboration to brand a BMW, to the point where she then was at art exhibitions with the likes of Andy Warhol, David Hockney, Liechtenstein. I mean, these folk are rock stars in the visual art space. And what she did was she stayed true to herself, but took her message to the world. And I think that's a really cool parting message to us is don't be anyone else. From a business point of view, there's certain things that you need to do from a compliance point of view. I'm not going to spend time on it, but the obvious thing is if you are going to go into the social space and you're going to have a website, please make sure that no one else has that name already. It's stating the obvious. It happens. People spend hours and thousands of rands putting together brand strategies and paying ad agencies designing logos, and then they go and look at the website. They're, sorry, someone's taken that website. They poked. So look at these simple things. Is first of all, if you are going to trade under a business name, if you're not going to use your brand, your name as your brand, make sure that the domain is available. Make sure that you're registered. Create a logo. If you are going to have a mnemonic, if you are going to put something out there besides your face, create a logo. Make sure you have a bank account, because when the money starts coming in, you're going to need to have it in there. Simple things like don't open up a business account because you're going to get charged a bucket load of fees from a bank. Rather open up a savings account. It costs you nothing. Be compliant. And again, not everyone for now needs to be a VAT vendor. But if you get big enough and you start engaging with big business, they're going to say, well, we deal with that. Probably not in your wheelhouse yet, but these are the things as entrepreneurs that you need to be mindful of. And last slide, folks. Sorry, 11 minutes over. What have we covered? Point number one is define your passion. Point number two, we looked at entrepreneurs who did things different. Be that Albert Einstein, be that Michelangelo. Go and look at the world and be the change that you want to see in the world. You have to make a plan. Otherwise, you're just going to be aimless. And be compliant. We are framed in society by rules. We need to understand those rules, particularly in business, in order to be the best version of what we can be in those businesses. So as a parting thought in the chat, if you could please share, is where to from here? So we've given you 3 days of defining a brand, of talking through the various touch points around digital strategy and the pros and cons of the different channels. Today I've talked through the business principles, a little bit around EQ, finding your thing, finding your passion. The influencers have given you tons and tons and tons of information around what they've done well. What is your next step? Often what happens with these kind of initiatives is people get all the rah-rah and they've got the chias and the chutzpah, and they go, and then a week or two later they go, meh, it dissipates. If you're passionate, if you're honest about this, do it and stay the course. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pedro. You've been amazing. You've been really insightful. I wish my younger self had this opportunity to have listened to you today. I think everyone that was tuned in today definitely picked up a lot more about starting up, as a little entrepreneur, at the basis of their roadmap and journeys that they would have ahead of themselves if they needed to think of their careers right now and how they would generate income from whatever we've taught them over the last 3 days. So thank you so much for sharing those insights. Thank you to the Vega team over the last 3 days. You all have been super helpful. And we've seen that in the chat box. We've seen the comments and how appreciative our participants have been on this webinar for all of the insights that have come through. So thank you so much, Vega team. Thank you so much for participating in all of our competitions and being such a lovely audience to have chatted to. Now, on a closing note, we would love to introduce Auntie Shamilla to give us the close for today.
Thank you so much, Swastika. I will be talking and dealing with you privately, because when you ask people to come and inspire the children with superpowers, I don't understand why you chose my son. Because the only power he has is to find my last nerve and get on it. Yet I do everything else in this house. But other than that, I just want to firstly, everybody give a virtual round of applause to Toughees for putting together this initiative. I think it was absolutely wonderful, absolutely phenomenal. To our lecturers, to our other influencers, I think we all learned a lot here, and it makes me very happy to know that everyone on this webinar is going to go out there and be our next set of superstars. I can't wait, because it's very boring here being the only superstar. So I need others to come and join me. And use the information wisely. I wish my son had all of this information when he was starting out. It would have made his life, my life, everyone's life much easier. But now you got the tools, the blueprints. Cannot wait to see you all on Instagram and making me laugh and giving me makeup tutorials. I can't wait, right? But thank you, everybody, and all the best.
Bye-bye, everybody. Make sure you follow and subscribe and stay in touch with Toughees.
Bye, guys.